Survivor Series always feels different, but WarGames changes everything. There's no escape, no lucky rollouts, no controlling the chaos once that cage shuts. And on top of that, we've got championship matches that could reshape entire divisions overnight. I've been going back and forth on this card for days, changing my mind, replaying scenarios, trying to figure out what actually makes sense for where WWE is heading next. And honestly, this is one of those cards where I can easily see at least one result shocking everyone. So in this video, I'm locking in my final predictions for Survivor Series WarGames 2025. No fence sitting, no safe answers, just my straight-up calls for every match on the card. Let's get into it.
CM Punk is signaling. No.
The men's WarGames match. This match is absolute chaos on paper, and for me it's the true main event of Survivor Series this year. When I look at both teams, one side feels built for destruction, and the other feels built for story. And that's exactly why this WarGames match is so fascinating. The heel side is terrifying. Brock Lesnar alone changes the energy of any match. Add Drew McIntyre's intensity, Braun Breaker's explosive power, Bronson Reed's sheer mass, and Logan Paul's wild card unpredictability, and this team feels like a walking demolition unit. If this was purely about who could do the most physical damage inside a cage, I'd honestly be scared to bet against them. But WarGames is never just about damage. It's about where the stories are heading. And when I look at the other side, I see layer upon layer. Cody still standing in the shadow of his unfinished business. Roman being forced into alliances he doesn't fully trust. Punk standing right in the middle like a ticking time bomb. And then the Usos, who have lived through every possible version of loyalty and betrayal at this point. That's not just a team. That's 5 storylines colliding at once. For me, the biggest question here isn't who's stronger. It's who makes sense to stand tall right now. I just don't see Roman Reigns stepping into his first full WarGames match and walking out on the losing side. I don't see Cody being pinned with WrestleMania season right around the corner. And I definitely don't see CM Punk losing a match of this magnitude so early into this phase of his run. Too much momentum sits on this side of the cage. A lot of people expect betrayals in WarGames, and I do too. But I don't think the betrayal is the finish. I think the match ends with the team still held together by adrenaline, and the cracks really open afterward. Jay especially feels like someone who could snap later rather than cost the team everything right here. If I had to picture the final moments, I honestly see someone like Braun Breaker taking the fall. Not because he looks weak, but because losing a brutal WarGames match can actually make him more dangerous in the long run. It gives him an excuse to become even more unhinged. So, for me, the win goes to Cody, Punk, Jay, Jimmy, and Roman. Not because the other team isn't deadly, but because this story isn't ready for these 5 to fall apart just yet. The real explosion is coming after the cage door opens. The women's WarGames match. This women's WarGames match feels like 2 completely different philosophies colliding. One side feels like power and pressure, the other side feels like star power and instability. And for me, that's what makes this match so unpredictable and so exciting. Nia Jax and Lash Legend bring sheer physical dominance. The Kabuki Warriors bring speed, chemistry, and years of tag experience. And Becky Lynch is the emotional core of that entire team. If this match turns into a pure endurance test, that side could absolutely grind their opponents down. There's a real survive the storm energy coming from that team. But then you look at the other side, and it feels like a lineup built entirely around spotlight moments. Rhea Ripley is presented like a final boss. Charlotte Flair always lives in the main event orbit. Io Sky never disappoints in high-pressure matches. Alexa Bliss brings chaos, and AJ Lee being in this match at all makes it feel like a special attraction WWE won't want fading into the background. For me, the biggest tension here is Rhea and Charlotte being forced onto the same side. Every time those two are near each other, it feels like the match could explode from the inside. But I don't think that explosions happens during WarGames. I guess WWE lets them coexist just long enough to win, and then the real conflict takes over afterward. The same goes for AJ and the rest. This team feels designed to walk out with raised hand and unresolved issues. I also don't see Becky taking a fall here. She's too protected for that. Which means if that team loses, it likely falls on someone like Lash or one of the Kabuki Warriors. And from a booking standpoint, that shifts momentum away from the group WWE has been positioning as the faces of the division. That's why, for me, this match ends with Rhea, Io, Alexa, Charlotte, and AJ standing tall. Because I think WWE clearly wants this side entering the next phase of the season with maximum heat, star power, and unfinished business boiling under the surface. The Intercontinental Championship match. This match hits completely different. Once you remember one thing, this is John Cena's second last match ever. Not one of many, not another chapter. This is the closing stretch of a career that defined an entire era. That alone changes the energy of this match for me. There's no safety net anymore. No long road ahead. Every entrance, every near fall, every reaction now feels permanent. And putting Dominik Mysterio across the ring from him at this moment feels very intentional. This isn't just legend versus heat. This is past versus future colliding at the edge of the finish line. Cena as IC champion feels old school in the best way. It feels like a victory lap mixed with one last responsibility. But Dominik Mysterio is the exact opposite energy. He's loud. He's hated. He's desperate to prove that he doesn't just live off his father's shadow or Judgment Day's reputation. And for me, that's what this match really comes down to. Legacy versus heat. Part of me wants to believe Cena keeps this title for a little longer. There's something poetic about him walking into one last big run with a classic championship. But the more I think about it, the more I feel like that's not how WWE usually tells these stories. Cena giving that torch directly to Dominik on a massive stage feels exactly like the kind of moment they'd want. Dominik doesn't need a clean win either. In fact, he probably shouldn't get one. Interference, distractions, cheap shots. That's his entire brand. And that kind of finish protects Cena while still pushing Dom forward as one of the most hated champions on the roster. The crowd reaction alone would be nuclear. For me, this feels like one of those matches where the result is meant to hurt just a little. I don't think Cena loses because he's weak. I think he loses because it means more for the future if Dominik walks out with that title. It makes Dom feel like a real villain champion, and it keeps Cena's farewell run emotional instead of dominant. So, as much as it stings to say it, I think this match ends with Dominik Mysterio leaving Survivor Series as Intercontinental Champion once again. The heat will be unreal, and the story will be far from over.
Durability and another
The Women's World Championship match. For me, this match isn't really about past versus present. It's about proof. Stephanie Vaquer isn't just defending a championship here. She's defending the idea that she truly belongs at this level. Carrying a world title is one thing. Being accepted as a world champion is something else entirely. And facing someone like a heel Nikki Bella at Survivor Series is the kind of test that decides whether people stop calling your run promising and start calling it legitimate. This feels like a career checkpoint. Nikki Bella isn't here to wave at the crowd and soak in reactions. She's here to see if this new champion can actually stand in the ring with someone who has lived through main events, media pressure, and championship politics. This is the kind of match where one mistake can turn momentum into doubt overnight. The more I think about it, the more I feel like this is a stress test for Vaquer, not a coronation for Nikki. WWE already knows what Nikki Bella is. What they don't fully understand yet is how far fans are willing to go with Vaquer as the face of that division. Survivor Series is where they get that answer. That's why I don't think this match ends with a title change. If it did, it would instantly turn Vaquer's reign into a question mark, a good run that didn't survive its first real credibility check. And I just don't see WWE pulling that trigger right now. For me, this ends with Stephanie Vaquer retaining, but not comfortable. This feels like the kind of defense that leaves a champion exhausted, shaken, and changed. The type of win that upgrades you from rising star to you belong here now. Nikki doesn't need the belt to leave an impact, but Vaquer absolutely needs this win to lock in who she's supposed to be.
Right hands. Lesnar. Oh, did you see that?
Marvelous verdict. So those are my final predictions for Survivor Series, WarGames 2025. Some of these feel pretty locked in for me. Others feel like complete wild cards that could flip in the last 10 seconds of a match. And that's honestly what makes this card exciting. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel predictable. For me, the two WarGames matches are all about what explodes after the cage opens. Cena versus Dominik feels like a moment that's going to sting no matter how it ends. And the Women's World title match feels like a make-or-break night for what kind of champion Stephanie Vaquer is going to be remembered as. Now, I want to hear your picks. Drop your full predictions in the comments. Tell me where you think I'm completely wrong, and tell me which match you think will shock everyone. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the post-show fallout. I'll see you after WarGames.